Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rumors versus Facts. My name is Roddy DeBulsey. I'm joined by Jed May. Sorry we're a couple minutes late there. I was actually finishing up a phone call. I always like to talk to people who know 1,000 times more about football than I do, and then I come on here and I pretend that these are all my ideas. And, just like I pretend that anything that Jed comes up with, I steal, and then I give him my bad ideas. He has to regurgitate those into good stories and comments. So it's good. It's good to be the boss. Jed, the University of Georgia lost yet again to the University of Alabama, ending Georgia's 33-game home winning streak. It's the one team that seems to have Kirby Smart's number. Just like, Georgia has Tennessee's number and has Auburn's number and has Florida's number. He has everyone else's number, but there's one team that tends to, if they can find a way to win against Georgia, they do it. You had them at second 26 in overtime. They beat you. You had them beat for a touchdown, and you dropped it. So there's so many things that seem to go wrong in the Georgia-Alabama game, and Georgia winds up losing. So tonight we're going to talk about some of those issues and look ahead to Kentucky. I thought Jordan Hall nailed it, saying, "Look, the season didn't start with Alabama; it doesn't end with Alabama. Georgia lost to them last year, won the SEC title, made it to the playoffs. We'll talk about if they can do it again and where the Bulldogs stand from here. Is this game indicative of the rest of the season, or what are we looking at going forward?" So let me get your overall thoughts on this Georgia-Alabama game. And folks, if you want to if you have questions or stuff, pop it into the comment section there, and we will put them on the screen as well.
Yeah, like you said, it's the opponent where things always seem to go against Georgia, and it's kind of like how Florida was there for 15 years. Even when you came in thinking Georgia's more talented or these teams are on equal footing, whatever, this weird stuff happens, like a 4th and 1 where you go huddle and lose 3 yards. Like there's all these weird things that happen. And again, I think Trent tweeted this the other day. Talon Taylor catches that touchdown pass 98 or 99 times out of 100. And the one time he doesn't is in the third quarter in the biggest game of the year, definitely to this point. So I think, like Kirby said today, there are reasons for optimism. You ran the ball for 220 yards. The defense got it together. After that, Alabama marched down the field those first 2 drives, and the defense gave up 10 points the rest of the game. And 3 of those were when Alabama got the ball on, I think, like the 11, and they held them to a field goal. So I think the season's not over. Like, I still think Georgia is a team that has all its goals ahead of it. And I think they're still positioned to get better as the year goes on. But this is one where, we talked about it last week. There's so much added stuff that goes into this game from a fan perspective, from a coaching history perspective. And when Georgia loses, it causes a lot more pain and angst in the fan base because I think a lot of people are like, Georgia should have won this game based on how both teams have looked this year and based on how the game played out. Like it seems like Georgia should have won this game. They didn't. And, the team's hurting about it. But again, I think this is still a team that's got all its goals ahead of it, no matter how much this one hurts for fans coming out of it.
Yeah, I see James Caraway says, sorry, but this is the game I officially lost hope in the Dogs. The talent's just not there. It says it doesn't seem to be an issue for Ohio State. Well, Ohio State lost 2 games last year, and at times looked like shit. So, they looked good at the end of the year, and they had 15 guys drafted. I think it was or 14, something like that. They had a lot of guys drafted. They were talented, and Georgia had double-digit guys drafted. Ohio State hasn't blown anybody's doors off this year. You had a 7-point win to open the season. It's not. They're not. Again, not crapping on Ohio State. They're probably going to win. Be right there in it, and I would not like Georgia's chances against them right now. Like you said, Kirby Smart was very optimistic today, talking about he learned what his team's made out of, the fact that they were hurting and angry. Yeah, that's great. But to James's point, though, if you don't have the talent, then, I could have a bunch of very angry, pissed off, 5-foot-tall offensive linemen, and we're not going to win anything because we just don't have the size or the speed. My point is the mental makeup, the connection, the fire, passion, energy is all well and good until you have to make a play like catch that pass, 4th and inches, get a sack. How many sacks does Georgia's defensive lineman have through 4 games?
Not enough.
0.
Not enough. And I think, again, like just what there's reasons to be optimistic, there's reasons to be pessimistic. The pass rush, like, no matter how Kirby Smart tried, and then listen, there's some truth. I'm not saying he's just up here lying to everybody's face, but it's also not like every single pass Alabama threw the other night was a quick, spit it out the outside play. There were a lot of times where Ty Simpson had way too much time to throw, and I think that's something they got to figure out. And you don't, like Kirby Smart said, it doesn't have to be sacks. Those are nice, but they're not even really affecting the quarterback that much. I think that's where your problems come in. And when you get to, say Georgia does make the playoff, you're going to be facing really good quarterbacks whenever you get there, whether it's Julian Sayin, whether it's Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, Dante Moore, whoever it is going to have a pretty good quarterback, and you got to affect them. And that helps. The secondary is what is easy to blame it on. And I'm not saying they played great either because they haven't.
No, but the secondary is garbage.
A pass rush helps cover up some stuff.
It really does.
Georgia doesn't have it right now. And I don't know if it's, Kirby even said the other night, Georgia's got more pass rush packages and twists and games and whatever than a man on the moon, but they got to employ them and they got to execute them. And I don't know if it's they need to do more, if they need to execute better. I'm sure it's both, but the pass rush just isn't at a championship level right now. I mean, it's just not. The secondary is not. I think the offense is fine. They scored 21 points. You turn the ball over on downs, which is obviously not good, but that's another drive where they march down the field. The Talon Taylor drop takes another 7 points and 50 yards or whatever that pass would have been off the board. So I think the offense has shown you stuff. They're running the ball well, which is something that was a big question mark coming into the year. But it's just, like I said, I think this is a team that's well positioned to get better throughout the year.
Yeah.
I still think that's true. And I got posted on the board today. The team that plays Texas and Athens in November, I think is going to be a different team than what we saw over the weekend. Now, will that team be good enough to win a championship? I don't know, maybe. But I think this is a team that's going to, at least is set up to keep getting better, but they're going to have to actually do it. It's easier said than done for sure.
Well, here's kind of what you're talking about, the offense. You're not worried about them. James Carraway also, he said, crazy, the gunner was the number one issue coming into the season, and he is not right now. Kirby was right in that Georgia proved their 2 goals coming into the season were to be able to run the ball and stop the run. They could do that. Mm-hmm. They can run the ball, and they can stop the run. Can they throw the ball? Yeah. Getting it to Colby Young is great. Getting it to Zachariah Branch has been fantastic. I think he needs more than 5 touches. I liked how Alabama used Jeremy Bernard, just handing the ball, pitching the ball, throwing the ball, hiking the ball, whatever it took to get him, because he's your best player. And they did that. So I'm not as concerned with the offense. I'm a little concerned about the right side of it. And you're right. They did leave points on the field. Now, when it feels like 21 points, which is not enough, but when
for sure,
points is your limit or all you could do, then you have concerns. But they left 14 points on the field. Like you said, the touchdown pass to remember, the defense finally gets a great stop. You get it in midfield. You take that chunk play to Talon Taylor. It hits him in a dead run on the 5-yard line. He should walk right into the end zone. He drops it. And we've seen him make that. We've had him at camps. He doesn't drop those passes. He wins MVP awards. He's a reason everybody in the world wanted him. But Ryan Williams, who's I think he's still 17, dropped one too. Now here's the thing: the difference. They went on to score on their drive.
Yep.
Georgia did not. And when you have a lost play like that, remember the first play prior to that, they bring in Peanut. Big Dwight Phillips fan. Got no issues with him getting the ball. He got 1 yard. So it's like, okay, it's 2nd and 9. Let's go for the home run ball. They got in the right defense for you to dial that play up. Good play call. Good execution until you drop it. Then you try to get Zachariah Branch to bail you out. He can't pick up 3rd and 9, and you have to turn the ball back over. Then the 4th and 1, which we could talk about here in a bit. You left at least 10 points there. You leave and if you make that block or you hang on to that ball instead of giving it to Cash, you walk into the end zone. So to me, it's a 14 points. If the block is made or Gunner keeps it, it's an automatic touchdown. So all of a sudden you win 35-24, and we're having a completely different conversation. But now Georgia's 3 points away from being 0-2 or 2-0. So it's
that's how thin the margin is.
Right. Or I don't know, like it's the margin, but also just the execution, or the play calls. This is not the team that had, everybody on defense get drafted. I don't know how many of these guys are going to get drafted. I know some of the guys that transferred away are going to get drafted, but a bunch of them will. But it's hard to look at the Georgia defense right now and say, "Ooh, first rounder, second rounder, first rounder, second rounder." You just don't have that, and I don't. And here's the thing: they recruit really well, but it's just tough to keep them. My point is, we were worried about the offense. We were worried about running the ball. They can run the ball. Worried about Gunner. Well, he's shown he can throw it. He put that was a beautiful ball to Talon Taylor. He's made some throws. Some other times they're throwing behind the line. That kind of bugs me, but I'm not worried about Chauncey Bowens running the ball. I'm like, just run it down their damn throats. Good luck stopping him, Kentucky. But stopping the pass. I was told after Joey Aguilar went off on Georgia, it's like, hey, the Bulldogs are going to face 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks better than Joey Aguilar. I'm like, that's impossible. He ripped Georgia. And they're like, well, just wait and see. Well, there's one, Ty Simpson. He looks better. Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss looks phenomenal. Arch Manning's pretty damn good. Jackson Arnold, I think, is maybe one of the better. I know Auburn's lost 2 games, but they've also lost 2 games to 2 of the top teams in the country. Those teams are 4-0. And they're built to take on a team like Georgia. So it's not going to get easier for the Bulldogs going forward. And I just think that the issues in the secondary, and Kirby could talk about how much they were hurting and how much fire, passion, and energy they have. And like you said, when Texas comes to town, this will be a different team. But you're not getting new players. Ellis Robinson isn't going to magically get better. Dan Harris isn't going to get better. I mean, maybe DeMello Jones comes in and saves their bacon. But who's the other safety? There are some major flaws with this defense. The offense has to score more than 21. And I'm generally very bullish on the Dogs. But right now, I'm just thinking this is a tough road to hoe, and these games are razor thin. 1 or 2 plays changes the outcome. 1 or 2 plays won you the game against Tennessee. That fourth and 6, throw over the back shoulder fade to London Humphreys, that ties the game up. But what if he missed it? So anyway, it's that close, and it's uncomfortable. It's not fun. Remember when you're 2022, you're winning by 21, 24, 27 points. Those games are a hell of a lot more fun.
Yeah. And listen, it's parity. It's the transfer portal. You can write a thesis on why it is, but like with the defense, I thought, we watched those first 2 games and we're like, trying to account for the competition as best you can, which stop the run really well. They were flying to the ball. Defense gave up a couple plays. I mean, I think it seems like those games were forever ago now, but you felt pretty good about the defense. And then the Tennessee game happened, and you're like, okay, well, Georgia's defense usually has one of those every year where they just get shredded by somebody. And again, they did in the middle 2 quarters of that game. They shut Tennessee down pretty good. So you're like, okay, maybe they figured some things out. Their first real opponent, they got a bye week. Maybe this is when they turn around, and then Alabama converts every 3rd down imaginable, something like approximately 70 3rd downs on the first 2 drives and score twice. And you're like, and again, they shut it down from there, but it's like, where was that on the first couple drives? So yeah, I mean, the defense, again, at all levels. I mean, again, stopping the run has been very good. Alabama struggled to generate big chunks in the run game for most of that game. And I think that's something big. But they're not rushing the passer. They're not covering exceptionally well. And so, I mean, DeMello Jones, and there was a couple of those, by the way, the other night where it really looked like from the press box there could have been PI called on a couple of those pass breakups too. So it could have been even worse. So Like you said, I don't know. Like, yeah, there's a lot of young guys back there that have room to get better, but again, you're not magically getting new players. And again, this is coming out of a bye week. You've had 2 weeks to work on yourselves and figure things out and figure out, player
2 weeks after you got exposed.
Yeah, and maybe DeMelo Jones passing Daniel Harris on the depth chart is maybe a product of that bye week. Maybe that's something we're going to see a lot more going forward. But again, Janelle Aguero isn't going to turn into Brian Branch in man coverage overnight. Like Ellis Robinson has had 2 back-to-back games now where he's had some coverage mistakes, and he had the dumb penalty at the end on top of it. So yeah, I mean, they got to figure it out. And I think the next 2 weeks, Kentucky is having a down year, and I think Auburn is a team that still struggles to throw the ball, at least kind of from what I understand. Although their receivers are ridiculous, so if they get enough protection and Jackson Arnold can throw the ball, they're dangerous. But
you're not getting to the quarterback, so he's going to have time.
That's true. So I think defensively, they'll probably be. I think they'll be okay the next couple games. But yeah, like you said, with Ole Miss when they come to town, Trinidad Chambliss is slinging the ball all over the place.
Plus, he runs like a maniac.
Yeah. So if all of a sudden you get into a shootout at home, like, yeah, we saw Georgia can win a little bit of a shootout in Knoxville, but I don't think that's something you still want to get into a lot with this offense. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what the next couple of weeks look like, because there are a lot bigger tests coming down the road. You think Ole Miss, you think Texas. I mean, if DJ Lagway is healthy, maybe he figures it out by then and starts.
And Georgia always plays terrible down there. So,
yeah. So Mississippi State took Tennessee to the wire, double overtime, I think, over the weekend. So it's going to be tough. And I think this defense, if Georgia wants to get, I think Georgia can get to where they want to go, but I don't know that they'll get there if the defense keeps playing like it's playing right now.
Yeah. They were talking about all the different stunts they have and all the different, defensive calls they have. And I saw like Mark Rick comment there on the section, and I've seen people saying, well, it looked like a Grantham team. It did almost feel like it's too complicated. And again, I'm not saying that it is, but it did feel like there were times that Georgia was looking, Alabama was making, and Kirby said it today, they were making checks, we were checking, they would make a check, we'd make a check, they'd make a check. So there's a chess match going on between offensive and defense. And there was a reason that you had Ty Simpson snapping the ball with 3 seconds left on the play clock. They're trying to get to the perfect play. Georgia's trying to get in the perfect defense. And sometimes perfect is the enemy of good.
I mean, that first third down stop Georgia got, the front wasn't even hardly lined up.
Yeah.
I think the coverage was good, and then Ty Simpson threw it away or whatever. But I mean, the front wasn't even lined up because they were trying to check and recheck and check and do everything else. And
that's the Grantham years, because they had calls.
I just don't know what and listen, if you want somebody that knows a lot about X's and O's, there's a show with a guy named Jim Donnan that you can watch tomorrow. I'm not that guy, but you can't just sit there and just do the same thing over and over again against modern college football offenses, especially a offensive-minded staff like Alabama, because they'll pick you apart. But if it's so complicated that your guys can't execute, then that defeats the whole thing. And again, I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know if it's purely execution. I don't have the answer to that, but something's got to change. Because again, it's like you said, Georgia's got talent. It's not like, they stink. Then Ellis Robinson's a 5-star. DeMelo Jones went flying up the rankings at the end. Dalen Everett was a highly rated recruit who has now been here forever. So they've got talent there, and they've got some guys with experience, but it's just not.
And that's
right now, at least.
But see, and a lot of people say, well, we demand execution from the players, but what about the coaches? When you have a defensive back, it's 3rd and 6, and he's playing already a yard. He's playing basically 3rd and 7, and the guy comes off the line and he doesn't come up. I get not being in press coverage, understood. But basically, you let the kid go 7 yards before you come across him, and it's, before you get to him. And I'm like, look, play the down and distance. Like, the guy catches it on the line, falls down, first down. It's like, now I know that the defensive backs, Kirby himself, did not tell you to give up the first down line. So, do you pull it? Do you never throw to Talon Taylor again? They took out Nate Frazier after he put the ball on the ground. They didn't play again. They went with Chauncey Bowens, which sometimes tells you, okay, if the guy can't get it done, go to the next guy. But other times, if let's say they missed a tackle, CJ Allen misses a tackle, KJ Bold missed a tackle early on. Do you pull KJ Bold? You don't have any other safeties. So, yeah, the guys are good, but I know it's a combination. In other words, there's a spectrum. If you want to lay the blame, where do you lay it? Do you lay it on the execution? Do you lay it on the play call? And it's really easy to say, well, it all goes on the coaches because they're the ones in charge of the players. But they can only go with what they have, and they can only tell you to do something 1,000 times. You can't blame a coach for Talon Taylor dropping the ball.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like, you can't say, dang it, Bobo, when the kid's running wide open and the ball hits him in the hands and he drops it. Like, that's not.
But you can't blame the coaches saying, hey, on third and 4, the quarterback keeps it. He looks like he may have a first down. Let's hurry up and not kick the field goal. It's like, okay. Now there's a coaching issue. The fact that you've got a cornerback jumping on the pile, yeah, that's a dumb play by the player, but it's also coach him not to do that. Hey, at some point you got to coach Nate Frazier not to hold the ball like he's holding it. And here's the thing: I know you've told him. Don't get me wrong, but at some point it's like I don't even want. We can spend a lot of time worrying about blame, but I think we need to look at our whole point of our show is rumors versus facts. The facts are Georgia has some of the best rosters in college football, but it doesn't have the roster dominance that you used to have. And before, if you had and I brought up Jawan Briscoe in my column, remember in Kirby's year 1 or year 2, I mean, it was early in Kirby's career, he could take a guy like Jawan Briscoe, who's a starter, and he just keeps getting beat, and you yank him, and you put in an Eric Stokes, or you put in, I don't even know if Eric wants to run a place, but you put in somebody else, and that guy's going to be good. So you lose Gaston and Green on the right side, and you have to put in a true freshman. You put in a Bo Hewley, you put in a Daniel Calhoun, and they're not getting it done. Do you go to the third string guy? So whereas before, if Warren McClendon was screwing up, you could pull Warren McClendon and put in Broderick Jones, a first-round pick. You just don't have that. So the point is the margins get tighter and tighter, and 1 or 2 plays here. And to compensate for that, you tell the coaches, well, you need to coach better. Okay. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to get the perfect play call on defense against the perfect play call on offense and vice versa. And if it doesn't go perfectly, then it blows up in your face. And you're like, son of a. In other words, I don't want to be a coach right now. I don't want to be a player. I'm glad this other guy.
Yeah, I mean, again, the 4th and 1. I mean, I guess we got to talk about it at some point. The hot topic of the week, like, yeah, I like I told you earlier today, Roddy. Like, I don't hate the decision to go for it there.
Yeah.
Everything else about that was rough. I don't think they needed to rush it. I don't think Cash Jones is what I would have done. And again, I dog on Kirby for doing this as much as anybody. That's where you do try to draw the opponent offsides with the hard count, and then you call a timeout, and then you get in whatever play you want to be in, get in whatever play you would get, whatever personnel out there you want, and you take your best shot. And if you get stopped, you get stopped. But I think it's just a play that was rushed. It's a play. I mean, again, you're running a guy who, and listen, Cash Jones is a good football player. Like, people say Cash Jones is terrible. Why is he on the field? He's on the field because he does things well. But he's a guy that you don't hand the ball to a lot, and then you run him to the right behind 2 true freshman offensive line, which, again, they played pretty well Saturday night. They ran the ball for 200 whatever yards. They pass protected pretty well. It's still, you're running behind 2 true freshmen in the biggest moment of your year. And it didn't work out. So It's tough. It didn't go well. I get what Kirby's saying by saying, okay, we decided we're going to go for it if we gained any yards and all this stuff. I get his thought process. But again, if you want a guy that knows X's and O's, Coach Don is your guy. But personally, I think that's one where, I mean, like somebody over here in the comments said, you let the air out of the stadium when you get stopped there. And the defense got Georgia the ball back with I think 8.5 minutes left and whatever, but that felt like the game right there when they got stopped. And that's one where I think, and again, I get Kirby has belief in Cash, but if you told Kirby, okay, you're coming out of halftime, you have to pick up a 4th and 1 on the first play out of halftime. Cash Jones is not the guy he's sending out there. And that's no disrespect to Cash. He's a good player, but
that's the point.
That's what you got Chauncey Bowens for.
But why was he out there though?
And see that, and I hadn't even if you think that, and I don't remember the sequence of, like, I remember the third down. I can't remember the second down if it was like,
I mean, you've got a makeable third down. It's 3rd and 4.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I don't remember the second down, like what personnel was out there, but I think, if you're thinking it's 3rd and 4 and we've got 2 plays, I don't know if there was like a timeout or somebody was injured or something, I guess is my point, or if it was just the flow of the game. But I think you're thinking if we got 2 downs, because I think you put somebody, and this is all second guessing, right? If Cash Jones goes around the end and scores, we're saying Kirby's a genius.
Well, there's a reason he's out there, and it's because it's 3rd down. Why do if it's 3rd down, Cash Jones is on the field. He is your 3rd down back because he gives you a pass capability and a run capability that puts the defense in, I don't say confusion, but it puts them in conflict. And that's exactly what you need. That's why James Cook was so effective there. Now, is Cash Jones James Cook? No. That's my point. You don't have the same talent. So you have him out there on 3rd down. If you stop to bring him out to bring in Josh McCray, well, the other team gets to substitute as well. So you can't go fast. Yeah. Georgia goes fast. And the other thing is like, well, why did he call that? That play was called before the 3rd down.
Exactly.
Because what you do, and we were talking about this on the post-game overreaction show, and people are like, well, I can't believe Mike did that. I'm like, that wasn't Mike's. I mean, the call is his, but why did he go for it? It's Kirby that decides if Mike has 1 or 2 downs after it's, they get it's 3rd and 4. He's on the headset with Mike. He's like, you got 2 plays. In other words, we're going for it, based on, like Kirby said, the sequencing. If you get some yardage, we are going to go for it on 4th down. If this play gets stuffed, because remember, it's a quarterback run, we're going to quarterback's going to keep it there. If he picks up yardage, now we're looking at 4th and 1, 4th and 2. We're going to go for it. If you get nothing, we're going to kick it. If you get something, we're going to go for it. And the point is to get Alabama, and it was a weird formation. Alabama fell for it. And again, now do you want to trick them on a game that's this close? That's up for debate. But you had a 5 technique lineup on the inside shade of your tackle, and all he has to do is just push him downhill. Just put hands on him, push him downhill. And either Cash Jones walks into the end zone, or if your quarterback keeps it, Gunnar Stockton runs into the end zone. Score 4 points, you're up by 4. You're not, people say, well, there's so much more time left. Yeah, you can kick a field goal, which you might miss. I doubt that you will. But let's say they kicked the field goal and tied it up. Okay. Alabama gets the ball. They have been keeping the ball from you, even though they weren't scoring in the second half. As they ran, I think, 28 plays in the second half. They ran a whole lot more than you did. They beat you in the number of plays by far, time of possession. Georgia only got the ball 1 more time after that 4th and 1. They got on the 5-yard line and they got to the 45. They didn't even cross midfield. So where's the winning score? If you tied it up, okay, but it's not like you had 2 or 3 more possessions after that. You got 1 more possession after that, and you couldn't get past midfield. So now that's a story in and of itself that we can take apart. My point is, when they did trick them, and you should have won, and everyone's like, yeah, but as a freshman offensive lineman, he's also your best offensive lineman. He's the best guy you have is Juan Gaston. I'm sorry, he's elite. He missed the easiest block in college football. Down block with nobody on the perimeter. I think it should have been a walking touchdown. Kirby said it. Kirby said, I'd run it 10 out of 10 times. I think what gets lost in the translation there is Kirby means I'd run it 10 out of 10 times against the way that defense was lined up. Not just we're always going to go for it there. And people are comparing it to Notre Dame. No, that's nowhere near what happened to Notre Dame. It's not even in the same ballpark. That's a stupid comparison. You had nobody to the outside, and your 5 tech, your 5 guy just came crashing through and dropped him for a 3-yard loss. So I get why Kirby did it. I'm with you. My first instinct was if they didn't get it, I'm like, well, kick the field goal. But by the same rationales, like against Tennessee last week, maybe you should have thrown it 7 yards instead of going for the end zone. What if they hadn't hit that pass to London Humphreys? Mm-hmm. And then they lose. And like Kirby on 4th and 6, you went for it all in the end zone. Why didn't you just try to get a first down? And they're 0-2. And we're like, I'm just saying you were saying about second guessing. We can second guess till the cows come home. From a coaching standpoint, they got the play they wanted. They didn't have the right personnel. My personnel issue, though, is completely different. Why throw that long pass to the freshman wideout? Why, when your defense finally steps up and stops Alabama at midfield, thanks to Quintavious Johnson back-to-back great plays, and now you take over on downs at midfield, you bring in Dwight Phillips Peanut and hand it to him. And then second down, you throw it to the freshman. And then granted, it was a specific play. They worked that play for him. But I'm like, if you're going to run that play, you know who I'd really like to see you throw that to? His name rhymes with ranch. Just use your horses. Don't take Chauncey Bowens out so much. If he's had a career night, he's had 100+ yards, see if you can get him 150. Stick with your horses. The rotation bugs me. And yeah, I understand having a freshman offensive tackle out there is not ideal, but the offensive line was better when he was out there than it was with anybody else. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, I think, again, I think offensive line played pretty well. I mean, I think there was one sack that I remember, but it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of pressure. I mean, that the touchdown to Colby Young is a double move or, hard pump. Like, you can't do that if you don't have good pass protection. So, but again, I mean, I think all it comes down to, you had one play and Alabama executed better than you did. And that's really, again.
And that's what it comes down to. I hate to say second 26, but they you sacked them, and then you let a guy get behind you. Georgia gets down and they throw it fast, and Chris Conley has to catch it. Time runs out. I mean, it's not one play that determines the game, but it does feel like it. It's usually just one or two more, but you always wind up, and like we're saying, you can second guess yourself till the cows come home. The first series, you got nothing. Second series, you got the first 2 offensive series. You got 1 first down. You had a nice Nate Frazier run. But that was it. And on defense, like you said, they went – I know it was 7 of 7 on third down conversions. It might have been 8 of 8.
I think it's 8 for 8, yeah.
I think they hit their first 8. At some
point –
they
were all like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, the first one, there was a 3rd and 10. Simpson scrambled for 10 on 3rd and 7. Like, they were – the first and second downs were awesome. And then
which is what we always say. They've got to win first down. And
yeah, they did that too, especially those first couple drives. And then the thing is like, that's got to take the wind out of your sails as a defense, right? Because it's like, man, like, what do we got to do? We got to get these guys in 3rd and 25 to finally get off the field, like that. And then that just puts the way that the beginning of that game unfolded. Okay, quick 3 and out. Alabama gets every 3rd down. Georgia gets the ball back. Doesn't score. Alabama once again. You could feel it in the stadium. Like, every 3rd down they got, it's like, oh, like the air got let out of the stadium. And again, credit to Georgia, they bounced back. It was 7, but it was 17-14. You're like, okay, Georgia weathered the storm. They gave up those 2 touchdown drives. They got the defense had a sudden change after a fumble, limited them to a field goal. This is where Georgia's back in this game. And Alabama blows down the field in like a minute 30 seconds right before halftime, scores a touchdown. And that's where you're like, those are the moments where a high quality defense is like, okay. And Alabama didn't have any timeouts either, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's
if
the
you
moment
told me
where,
that you can run on them and you can stop the run, they're going to use all their timeouts in the first quarter, and they're running their 2-minute defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I mean, that's the spot where a defense, at minimum or at worst, you've got to hold them to, because again, kickers are good nowadays. Like if they get to the 30 and they kick a long field goal and they make it, so be it. It's still a 1-score game. But when they drive down the field and they score a touchdown, it sucks all the momentum out again. And then they did the same thing to start the second half, and then the game turns again when that kid, Alabama's kicker, hooks a field goal. Georgia scores. And then Georgia gets the 4th down stop, and you're like, okay, 3 straight possessions. This has ended well for Georgia. Like this, they're about to really put like what I thought was going to happen going into that game was at some point the atmosphere and the crowd was going to snowball on Alabama, and Georgia would win by like 10. I said 17 to Dash in the press box. I was like, I think this is Georgia finally exercises this demon in a major fashion. And when they got the ball, 11. Yeah. When they got the ball at the 50, down 3 with momentum turning, I'm like, okay, this is the moment. And they did. They punted after the Talon Taylor drop. Okay, then they get a punt. They get the ball at 50 again. And I think that's the drive where they came down and eventually turned the ball over on downs. And then it just, again, I think all this comes doing overarching thoughts. Like a lot of those Florida games, there were so many chances for Georgia's like, if they make this play, if they make this play, if they make this stop, if they pick up this block, whatever, that this game swings the other way. And you can say that about Tennessee too, by the way. And it worked out against Tennessee, and it didn't against Alabama. It's Georgia's 1-1 in the SEC, and I think given how thin the margins have been and how they've played, that's probably pretty fair, I would say.
Yeah.
But they've got to. It's where they go from here. Do they improve on being a 500 team, where they still keep playing like that for the rest of the year? We're going to find out starting Saturday.
Well, I was. We're kind of dealing with talking about the sort of the negative stuff there. I do want to point out some of the positives. I thought that the 3 passes behind the line and the final drive drove me crazy. But some of the other throws from Gunner Stockton were absolute bullets. We saw that again with Tennessee. I'm not worried so much about Gunner. There's he's not elite, but he's a very good quarterback. I almost wish they'd Kirby's talking about all the decisions they put on a quarterback. I almost wish they'd make it a little bit simpler for him. Just let him go out and ball with. And somebody in his comment section was talking about Colby Young playing like an NFL player. Colby catches a 1-yard pass, and to be fair, Alabama was on it. The block was missed. They were right there to stop him. The dude got 3. It doesn't sound like much, but the way he fought for those 2 damn yards is almost like he was mad at the grass. I mean, he was just driving forward like he was like a bull in a china shop. And I'm like, there's a fire, passion, energy. Hell yeah, go Colby Young. And then they didn't throw to him I don't say again, but it took a while. I'm like, dude, go right back to him. I don't care what you called in the huddle. Go right. That dude is pissed off. Get him the ball. And the Branch, this was his game. He got 5 touches, but what about 10? So my thought is your quarterback's fine. Let him sling it to those guys. We didn't talk about Dylan Bell. You get it in Dylan Bell's hands. He takes off like a shot. Let's see a little bit more of that. Chauncey Bowen's running like a maniac. I'm kind of excited about what Georgia's offense can do. I'd be very excited to see what they could do with a healthy offensive line. I'm just really worried about the defense. And I thought this was the game where Georgia would pound the ball because I thought they could run on Alabama, which they did, and keep Ty Simpson on the sideline. In the first 2 drives, they had the one big run by Nate Frazier. And then on third drive, they score in 3 plays. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's the thing. We were in the press box, and it's like, okay, they scored, but like,
Now the defense is like, hey, you sons of bitches, we would like some time off here.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like I think that probably
you can't tell them not to score,
but it doesn't help for sure.
So anyway, it just feels weird to be talking about a Kirby Smart's team and talking about the defense kind of letting you down. You know? But then go back to last year, they gave up 30 points in the first half against Alabama. Give up 24. You get 54 points in the first half of 2 games. Shut out in the second half thanks to the missed field goal, but still the time of possession. I don't know. I wrote it down before, but Alabama ran a ridiculous number of plays in the second half, even though they didn't score. They were moving down the field as huge chunks. You only had 4 possessions in the second half. That doesn't feel like a team that's throwing it all over the place. And they weren't running for it, but it's like, how the hell are they playing keep away? So we talked 2 weeks ago about Tennessee has shown what you can do to Georgia through the air. And now you're facing a team that's just a passing team. So maybe Georgia says, look, we're going to take away the pass and force you to run it on us. Even when you knew it was coming, they couldn't stop it. So I'm a little concerned if I'm a Georgia fan about facing some of these other teams. But again, I like what Colby Young is doing. I like what Zachariah Branch is doing. I like what the running backs are doing. I like what the quarterback's doing. I don't know where the tight ends are. I'm assuming they're having to stay in and help a little bit on the line, but that's the second game this year without a reception by them.
Yeah, and that's that second drive. I think it was the play after that long run. Gunner threw it to Delp on kind of like a wheel route down the sideline. It would have been probably 15, 20 yards, and Delp goes up for it and he takes a big hit and drops it, which again, like that's a tough catch because he got laid out.
Yeah.
But that's a play you'd like to see a receiver / tight end make for the quarterback. And then I don't know.
They're allowed to hit you when you catch it.
Yeah. And I don't know that they got another target off the top of my head. I don't remember one. So yeah, I mean those guys have been largely I don't want to say invisible, but they have not been much of a factor in the passing game. At all, really, in any game.
Yeah. Defensively, Quintavious Johnson, he had that one horse collar tackle, but then after that, I feel like this was a growing up game for him, kind of a coming out game for him. We saw him make some big plays. I'm not impressed with Gabe Harris on the other side. I haven't been impressed with either one of them really when it comes to teams attacking the perimeter. They get hooked a lot inside. And I just don't setting the edge seems to be an issue. I don't know how to fix it. It's not like you've got a bunch of guys. They brought in Ella Mendoza, Chris Cole. Are you willing to put another guy out on the edge like that? Change up your front a little bit. I would be a little bit worried about the fact that those guys you're not getting contained on the edges, but it's not because they're getting to the quarterback, or they're affecting plays. Now they're staying in there, they're anything inside they're getting, but I'm a little worried about Georgia's. They stopped the run, but they're also giving up the edges.
Yeah, and that's again that group is like that's where you lost Damon Wilson. That's where Sam Pimba's gone. That's where Chaz Chambliss collected his AARP card and is off campus. And that was one of the questions coming into the year is what does Gabe Harris look like? What does Davis Johnson look like? Can Chris Jones transition from outside line or inside linebacker to outside linebacker? And then he's done enough to get some playing time. And Mendoza is still not making as much of a impact as I think a lot of people thought and hoped he would. And so it's one of those things where it's like, you got what you got at edge. And I don't know if the answer is they throw a couple of the freshmen out and see if they can do something. I don't know if it's do you play Chris Cole there even more than he already is? I don't know what the answer is, but I think I think the performance overall in the run game has been good, but Quintavious Johnson, Gabe Harris, they're not getting pressure on the quarterback. And I think that's, in modern college football, you need to do that. If you get pressure on the quarterback on third down, even if you don't get a sack, if you flush the guy and he throws it inaccurate, if he throws it out of bounds, if he, if he doesn't see the guy running open for 12 yards and he has to check it down for a guy for 2 and he cycled short of the first down, like all that stuff adds up over the course. I mean, you're talking about the possessions. Every sack is, I mean, not necessarily, but close to a drive killer. And when possessions are limited, those plays are so huge. And those, they've kind of been few and far between for the outside linebacker group. And I think they got to figure it out because, like you said, this isn't the NFL where you can make a trade and go get somebody's, you can trade one of your highly recruited inside linebackers for an edge somewhere and help both teams out. You got what you got. And I think that they're going to have to figure out a way to be better on the edge against the run and get at the quarterback as well.
Yeah. Randy points out that Gabe Harris made a big play on the 4th down. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that they are incapable of doing that, but did he make 5 others, 6 others? I mean, it's when you had Jalen Walker out there, you can point to 5 or 6, per game. It's just, but again, it's a first-round pick. I'm not saying that Gabe won't be that guy, but again, we didn't talk about Gabe before this year. We didn't talk about Quintavious Johnson before this year. These guys are young. They are new. We spent so, I would say ink. We don't use ink anymore, but we spent so much time writing about the youth of this team. And I think the 2 edge guys, Jordan Hall, this is his first year.
He's been here. Been hurt a lot. Yeah.
And he sniffed out a little dump screen behind him, turned around, dropped the guy, felt the running back was like, wait a minute, I feel you sneaking out, I feel this little leak. And he turned around, dropped it. It was a beautiful play. So I'm not, you can point to the 1 or 2 plays they made, but at the same time, how many sacks did Jordan Hall have? How many did Christian Miller have? We talked about Christian Miller blowing past everybody in fall camp, which he did. But where's he now? Where's the sack numbers? So a little worried about the edge guys, the defensive front, but let's call it serviceable, but not elite. They're not playing. Kirby always talks about guys who can win championship football. Did you see championship football caliber players from the defensive front? I didn't. So, and definitely not in the secondary. But again, they also make some big plays, and you held Alabama at 24 points. Much better job in the second half. And it was interesting that Jordan Hall was saying, the stuff we ran in the second half, I don't understand why we didn't run that in the first. And then Kirby's like, well, we didn't change anything at halftime. The plays that we were calling in the first worked in the second. Which is which?
Well, and Dalen Everett said something after the game the other night. He's like, yeah, we came up and challenged their receivers a little more in the second half. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. But so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I thought the same thing today because it seems like something was different for sure. So, yeah, again, it's so weird that we're spending all this time talking about the defense. Because I even said last week, I think I was like, yeah, I have faith in Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, whatever, that they're going to get the defense figured out. And like, I still would probably believe that more than not. But then now it's 2 games in a row, and now it's 2 games in a row. It's the 2 games you've played against, quality competition have both. They've had good and bad. Like the middle 2 quarters against Tennessee and the last 2 quarters against Alabama, very good. The first halves, or the first quarter against Tennessee and the first half against Alabama, were rough. So it's like, which unit is this really? And I don't think we know yet. I don't know that they know yet. But they, again, the next 2 weeks are offenses that probably aren't above, they're mediocre probably at best as far as SEC standards go. And then you've got Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin coming to town. If there's one guy you don't want to see if you're struggling on defense, it's those guys. So that's the big. And again, I'm not saying to totally overlook Kentucky and Auburn, but they're not offensive powerhouses on the same level as Alabama, as Ole Miss, and as Texas has the capability to be. So
as the guy who worked all last year on your defense, remember he said they practiced all year long to get ready for Georgia, and it showed. So I asked Coach Smart about Kyron Jones. He was the second leading tackler the last 2 weeks, but you kind of don't hear his name a whole lot. You don't see it. There's not. In other words, I don't see a ton of Kyron Jones clips out there for a guy who's making that many tackles. We hardly ever mention him. He's getting the starts, but it almost feels like KJ's kind of back there by himself. And I shouldn't feel that way considering the numbers the kid's putting up, but I'm just having a hard time going, wow, big hit, big play by Kyron Jones.
yeah. I mean, he had a couple against Tennessee where he came up and laid a kid out. It's like, oh, that was a big play. But to that point, is it as often as we were like, oh man, look at Dan Jackson coming up from the secondary last year. Yeah. Oh man, look at Malachi Starks come flying up last year.
Dan Jackson won you the Tech game.
So yeah, and I think it's I mean, and even you've had Janelle Aguero, he, especially that Tennessee game, made some great plays, but I think you still notice teams picking on him in coverage at points.
If he's a man coverage, you go right at him.
If it's a 3rd and 6, you're going to say, can we get a guy matched up on Janelle Aguero and run an 8-yard route? And chances are it'll be open. And I mean,
or they'll run a slant against Dalen Everett.
It is what it is. And again, you're not, I think, do you move? Like your options, I guess, are limited because, I don't know who else. I mean, you got Ja'Cory Thomas, who gives you some flexibility, I guess, in terms of can you move people around. He's a guy who's played a lot, but I don't think the transfer guys have played a snap in the two SEC games. So
yeah, I think you're right. I don't think any of them played against Tennessee.
Does that change later in the year? Do they come along and whatever? Maybe, but I think there's some. You're limited in what you can do in the secondary, I guess. Like, yeah, there's things that aren't up to snuff, but what are you going to do personnel wise at a certain point?
So they brought in Jaden Harris, brought in Zion Branch. Who was the third one? Safety.
Jaden Harris.
I mentioned him.
Oh, Harris, Brand. Oh, Adrian Maddox.
Adrian Maddox.
Yeah.
They brought in Elo Mendoza. I think between all of them in the last 2 games, you had 8 snaps?
Yeah, I mean, it's not – and Mendoza hasn't done a whole lot on his
I think all those snaps were his.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not getting – and listen, like I think we all kind of thought, at least for the safeties, like they have a chance to contribute. It's kind of up for grabs. Mendoza's a guy that I think big thing we're expected of, and he's not there yet, and he could be. Like he came from Army. Like that's a big jump to SEC football. Maybe he turns it on in the back half of the schedule, but it certainly hadn't showed up too much so far.
Yeah. So we can talk about some of the guys we think might break out. Like I thought, DeMello Jones. I was saying it last year before the Notre Dame game. I'm like, this kid's good. We're all waiting. When is Ellis Robinson going to take over? For like Dan Harris, because Dan was just getting picked apart last year. And I'm like, well, Ellis might be able to take over, but I think the guy who might be more fundamentally sound or doing what the coaches want him to do, the way the coaches are talking, they're talking about DeMello Jones. So I was kind of thinking, where's the you had 2 safeties last year that were kind of tearing it up. You got Malachi Starks, who's big. Then Dan Jackson's doing his thing, and they are supported by a KJ Bolden. Now you got KJ Bolden, and you're not looking at either the safety or the star spot going, wow, Georgia's loaded there. Georgia's strong there. If you can throw against the star or throw against the second corner, second safety, you do it. So – and Georgia knew that, and they brought in 3 different safeties to try to shore up the issues there. So maybe, like I said, maybe those guys come on. Maybe Elo Mendoza turns it on. And you've said, I will give you credit. You said the team that starts the season will be completely different by the one that ends it. They will grow up. We're seeing we saw Dontrell Glover get better. We're seeing Despite the missed 4th and 1, Juan Gaston. And here's the thing, Juan Gaston, I keep saying he's the best player, but that was his first game at right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
He is your best player there, but, going up against a guy who is an SEC vet, at Alabama, he's like, I know I'm going to use a trick on this young cat and get right by him. So he's going to make a mistake. So I'm hoping to see that. I know a lot of people want to see the Noah Thomas transfer and see what he can do. And they're like, why is he playing more? I just don't think the coach is that high on him. I really don't. I think that if you're going to throw it right now, you want to throw it to Branch. You want to throw to Colby Young. You want to throw to London Humphreys and Dylan Bell. And I just don't think that I can't say which one of those guys you want to take out to bring in Noah Thomas. I'm not banging on him. I'm just thinking.
We've even seen we've seen Talon Taylor. We've seen Sakobi White-Helton get a few targets and a few catches. He had one I believe in the fourth quarter against Tennessee. And
they threw to Sakobi against Alabama.
Yeah. So it's a crowded room, and it's just not. And we heard good stuff about Noah Thomas in the offseason and camp, and it's just not translating into the end of the season, into the fall practices, into the games, whatever it is. It's just not translating like I think a lot of people thought it would so far.
Yeah.
But again, like with all these other guys, maybe the light comes on and he makes a lot bigger impact down the stretch. You never know.
Well, that might be why Kirby, when we talk to him, he always says, "Well, we got to get better." No, maybe that's what he means by some of those other guys can step up. And to be fair, in the week 2, we asked him, "What are you looking for?" He says, "I'm looking for 50, 60 guys that can play championship-winning football." And then we asked him later on in the year. He says, "I'm still looking for those guys." So he sounded very positive today about the mental aspect of his team. So a lot of guys came in Sunday to get in work. They're back at it. I agree with you. I don't want to say Kentucky's a get right game because this is after every Kentucky game, everybody's just beat all to hell. And going to Auburn's going to be rough. It's going to be a night game. A night game in that stadium there's some weird voodoo at night down there, so that's not going to be easy. But I think your offense can get better. Your defense has a chance as these guys mature and grow up. And also, these other teams they have some great things, but nobody's really dominant. I mean, hell, Georgia could win out. Georgia could lose 3.
Just don't know. Yeah, there's a world where Georgia wins out and keeps getting better and rolls into the SEC championship at 11-1. I think, or there's a world where the defense
playoffs.
Yeah, there's a world where the defense gets picked apart by Ole Miss. They lose to Texas. Georgia Tech's undefeated, and then they were down 17 points on the road and came back and won. And I know it's against Wake Forest, but that shows a lot about a team. So, yeah, there's a world where they're 9-3, and they're the team that, Kirby Smart is going on game day the weekend of the SEC championship, arguing why his team should be in. Instead of where it was Shane Beamer and Kalen DeBoer last year. So, I don't know. Again, I think this team is in a good position to get better, but they've being in a position to do it and doing it are two different things. And we've got to see what direction this team goes from here.
Yeah, Wayne Kirkland says Noah Thomas looked great at A&M, but we rarely use him. Who do you want to get less balls? It's just like with the running. I would say I would rather. And I know Dwight Phillips is really good. He's super fast, but I kind of like now I want Chauncey Bowens to get most of the snaps. Unless he's too tired, puts his hand up to take his hand, hey, I'm out of here. So anyway, there was some good news Saturday before the game started. The Bulldogs got a couple commits. I thought that was kind of interesting that you hit 2 offensive line commits.
As if Saturday wasn't stressful enough. Yeah, Kyson Mallard and Kelsey Adams and Adams especially.
Big country.
He's a top. What is he? He's a top 200 guy on Rivals. That's a big one. Out of Langston Hughes, who he commits before the game, and then he watches 2 other Langston Hughes guys. I think they both. No, I guess Gaston didn't start, but 2 Langston Hughes guys get significant playing time in Bo Hughley and Juan Gaston, Bo Hughley and Dontrell Glover, excuse me, and Glover doing that as a true freshman. So that's big time there. But yeah, it's that you got to rebuild. I think Georgia's got to rebuild the trenches, and they got to get some difference makers at edge, outside linebacker, whatever. And I think Kamari Brooks, I know it's in a recruiting show, but 2026, Kamari Brooks, I think, is a guy who could play next year. He's very, very impressive at the high school level and plays in a program that gets you prepared for college football in North Oconee. So, but yeah, they got to get difference makers, protecting the quarterback and getting after the quarterback. There's a reason those guys make a lot of money in the NFL, because they're the most important position on the field after the quarterback.
Didn't we see the Bulldogs sign 2 or 3 elite edge rushers in this last class?
Yeah, Isaiah Gibson, Darren Nickanagbin, Chase Linton, and haven't
heard. Are they still on the team?
I think so. Last I checked, but yeah, hadn't seen much of them for sure. And again, maybe you get to a point where it's like, you know what, one of those guys gets to the point where the staff feels comfortable throwing them out there and seeing what you got, maybe. But definitely haven't seen it through 4 games.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we will start to see some of the new names pop up. I'm just not holding my breath on that. I'm just not. The way Kirby was talking, the way Jordan Hall was talking, my current pessimism is probably ill-founded, because based on the way just the tenor of those guys, maybe we should be a lot more excited about what Georgia can do going forward. And as you said, hey, everything's in front of them. And I think they bounced back, and the games against Kentucky are always close, or at least always physical. I think that this team will have something to prove when they go out in front of the Pans at noon this coming Saturday. I think and hell, it's not Alabama, so that's a good start right off the bat.
Just because of that. For nothing else, it's not Alabama, exactly.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. We appreciate all of you tuning in. Join us next Monday at 7 o'clock. We like to do this every week, and we will be talking the Georgia-Kentucky game and looking ahead to Georgia-Auburn, and there might be a few more recruiting updates there that you need to tune in for. Jed has 2 stories ready for tomorrow morning. We had a bunch of updates today as well. He had a great piece on the reaction from all the recruits that were in town for the past week. This past week's game. So be sure to swing by UGAsports.com and check out all the recruiting updates that Jed and Lance and Harrison are putting out. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you later.